pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we have roll call, please?
Mrs. Green. Here. Mr. Brennan.
Here.
Mr. Segler.
Here.
Mr. Francis.
Here.
Mr. Hippo.
Here.
Mr. Hoover.
Please excuse Mr. Hoover for medical reasons.
Mrs. Irwin Adams.
Here.
Mr. Johnston.
Here.
Mr. Cruz.
Here. Okay. That, we had an executive, or no, we're going to have an executive session. And I'll turn it over to Paula for presentations.
Okay, Kate, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. There's a red switch in front of you. Flip that switch and push the round button on the big rectangular box.
Yep.
All right, that's what I needed. Thank you. Good evening. This is a little, we were hoping to do this at a regular school board meeting on January 5th, I believe it was, but we, coming right back off a break, were unable to pull it together and give the kids enough time to prepare. But January, as many of you may or may not know, is School Board Director Recognition Month. And we want to take this opportunity to thank our school board members for the time and effort that you put forth. We do recognize the fact that your pay does not reflect your effort, and that it is volunteer, and the amount of time and the hours that you put into it, it is greatly appreciated. Our staff, our administration, our students, our families, we believe we have a very good school district in the Altoona Area School District. Many of us have graduated from this district, believe in what we're doing, and we wouldn't be able to do it if it wasn't for the folks like you who put the time and effort into it. So for that, we want to say thank you. But more importantly than that thank you coming from us, we wanted our students to say thank you. So I'm going to introduce our student presenters this evening, and what we're going to do, each one has been assigned a board member. They're going to come stand with you. They have a gift for you, and they're going to speak to you on behalf of their school. So when they come and meet with you, if you would kindly stand up and allow them to introduce themselves and speak on behalf of their school. And Mr. Hatch is going to take a photograph. I would like, if possible, but it looks like we're going to be tight, to take a group photo because I'd like to share that with our families outside of that are here, not here this evening. So with that, I'm going to ask the kids to come up when I introduce your name. We have Landon Dunkel from McAuliffe Heights program at Irving. Landon is here with his mom, Sarah Dunkel. Callan Plunkett from Juniata. He's here with his mom, Sarah Plunkett. Peyton Shaw is representing Juniata Gap. Peyton is here with Amanda Locke and Richard Cucharella. There's one more person. And who is that? Jim Cucharella. Thank you. Welcome. We have Kale Finnegan representing the Learning Express. Kale is here tonight with Justin and Misty Finnegan. Lauren Walgrove is representing Logan. Lauren is here with her parents, Brent and Stacy Walgrove. Zoe Weaver is from Penn Lincoln. Zoe is here with her parents, John and Ellen Weaver. Owen Wasovich is from Pleasant Valley Elementary. And Owen is here tonight with Jason and Kirsten Wasovich's parents. Casey Rooney is from Ebner Elementary. She's here with Ramona Brobaker. And we have Briella Sipes, who's with Matthew and Desiree Sipes, and she's representing Baker. So with that, I'm going to let Landon start us off. Okay, Landon, Mrs. Green is right here in the pink sweater.
Hello, my name is Landon Dunkel. I'm a 6th grade student at the McAuliffe Heights program at Irving Elementary School. I would like to thank Mrs. Sharon Green for understanding the importance of reading and for her support of our classroom libraries. My friends and I have so many books to choose from now. On behalf of the students and staff at McAuliffe Heights, it is my honor to present you with this book, The Most Magnificent Thing by Ashley Spires. Thank you for your service to the Altoona Area School District.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And I guess I should have explained, the books are being placed in the Altoona Public Library, not that we don't want you to have a book, but it's being placed in the Altoona Public Library in your honor, and it will be in circulation beginning tomorrow. So it's already been cataloged and ready to go. All right, Callan, you're up.
Callan, you have Mr. Bill Segler.
Hello, my name is Callum Plunkett. I am a 6th grade student at Juniata Elementary School. I would like to thank Mr. Bill Segler for improving the safety of our schools and taking every effort to keep me and my friends safe. On behalf of the students, staff, and teachers at Juniata Elementary School, it is my honor to present you with this book, The Only One You by Linda Kranz. Thank you for your service at the Altoona Area School District.
This is Peyton Shaw with Mr. Francis. Yeah, right.
Hello, my name is Peyton Shaw. I'm a 3rd grade student at Juniata Gap Elementary School. I would like to thank Mr. David Francis for investing in our teachers and the reading workshop so they can help us improve our reading. My friends and I are reading more and liking it. On behalf of the students and staff at Juniata Gap, it is my honor to present you with this book, Fablehaven, by Brandon Wool. Thank you for your service to the Altoona Area School District.
Thank you.
Thank you. Music classes.
Thank you.
This is your, come on over here, but just introduce your superintendent.
My name's Kimmel.
Kale. And you're from where? What building?
Orient Express.
Cool. And do you have something fit for us to donate to the library today?
Dr. Seuss.
All right. And the place is reserved. Hang on, let me do this right. There you go. There you go. All right, let's go back to
Good job, Calvin.
Fantastic.
Hello, my name is Logan Walgrove. I'm a 6th grade student at Logan Elementary School. I would like to thank Miss Kelly Owen Adams for providing us with programs and opportunities related to our education. On behalf of the students, staff, and teachers at Logan Elementary School, it is my honor to present you with this book, The Day the Crayons Quit by Drew D. Wool. Thank you for your service to the Altoona Area School District.
Hello, my name is Zoe Weaver. I am a 6th grade student at Penn Lincoln Elementary School. I would like to thank Mr. Ron Johnson for keeping our music a priority in our schools. We are excited to have dancing drums at our school this year. On behalf of students, staff, and teachers at Penn Lincoln Elementary School, it is my honor to present you with this book. We All Are Wonders by R.J. Polico. Thank you for your service to the Altoona Area School District.
Hello, my name is Owen Wasovich. I am a third grade student at Pleasant Valley Elementary School. I would like to thank Mr. Ed Cruz for his commitment to keeping us healthy and active by making sure we have the opportunity to become a mountain lion and participate in athletics. On behalf of the students, staff, and teachers at Pleasant Valley Elementary School, it is my honor to present you with this book, Because of Winn-Dixie by Kate D. Kimmel. Thank you for your service at the Altoona Area School District.
Hello, my name is Casey Rooney. I'm a 6th grade student at Ebner Elementary School. I'd like to thank Mr. Wayne Hibbo for hiring teachers and staff that care about us and help us with anything we need each and every day. On behalf of all the students, staff, and faculty at Ebner Elementary School, it is my honor to present you with this book, Wonder by R.J. Palacio. Thank you for all your service at the Altoona Area School District.
Howdy, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Brianna Sykes. I'm a 5th grade student at Baker Elementary School. I would like to thank Mr. Dutch Brennan for his time and commitment to STEM education and for supporting STEM Lending Library for all our elementary schools. On behalf of all the students and staff at Baker Elementary School, it is my honor to present you with this book, Library Line by Michelle Knudsen. Thank you for your service to Altoona Area School District.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
If I could have all the board members real quickly step up above with your presenter in front of you and your books. We'll do a group photo. And then
It gets congested up here, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Pushes 4 to 10.
You want to hold a shot? All right.
can we all squeeze as close as we can?
Can you guys move in front of your, yep, just kind of, you're good, right here.
There you go.
Perfect. There we go.
Kale, smile. Come on.
Cal, look here. Attaboy. All right, good job, guys.
Thank you.
Yep.
That has been running behind because of all the utilities that we ran into at the front of the building. However, they have made, once we got through all of that, got the foundations done, there's been a lot of progress. As you can see with the steel, there'll be some photographs further on in the presentation showing you how we've got some of the concrete slab on grade and slab on deck has been poured. So a lot of good progress there. We are working to a plan to ensure that we do have cooling by the end of May when we transition from needing heat into cooling. So that's one of the big concerns and considerations that we're working on. The good news is that particular phase is not on the critical path, and in other phases of the project, and especially the main, large addition, I think the last report, we're running about 3 days behind at this point, or within 3 days. So overall, pretty much on schedule with the big addition. And actually, in some of the 4 classroom rotation that we have, we're trying to get a little bit ahead so that we ease a little bit of the work that's happening this summer. And all of the work, during the course of this project, obviously the summers are very heavy with work with the children out of the building. So if we can minimize that, we can kind of not have such a fire drill at the end of the summer like we normally do on school construction. So overall, the schedule, although we're behind in the field house addition, things are moving good elsewhere despite the weather and some of the unforeseen conditions we've come across. As far as areas under construction, I mentioned, we've been, the steel setting is pretty much complete at the addition of the field house. The canopy framing is up. The slab on grades have been poured, and we're going to start to see cold form metal framing along the perimeter of the building. What you saw before was that that particular addition was tented so that we could maintain a certain temperature to pour those concrete slabs. The wind over the last couple of nights tore that up a bit, but we no longer need to have that condition. In fact, in order to put the cold form framing up, we have to take that down anyway, so the timing was good on that. We are beginning to do some rough-in work with the ductwork and the lighting throughout that area as well. In the new high school, foundations and piers are nearing completion, which is good. Good news in that we're getting out of the ground and getting away from the soils conditions that we had. So hopefully that'll be behind us here shortly. Doing some waterproofing and backfilling. Obviously the steel is moving along at a very good pace at this point. The masonry work continues throughout, and we're prepping to pour slab on grade in many areas of the addition. So continuing there. And the field house renovation, we talked about the 4 classroom rotation that we're dealing with right now. Turned over the first group. We started in the next block of those areas, doing some of the demolition in those areas and continuing the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing work in the renovations. As far as project financials, again, cost of all bids was $74.5. Paid to date right now is $16,316. Represents about 22% of the overall value. Our contingency amount was $2.3. We have what's in process right now from the board-approved change orders is about $825,000. There are other changes that we are still evaluating as far as getting an exact number for those. So right now we've got remaining contingency of about $1,475,000. Along those lines, we met last week with all of the consultants to talk about looking forward. We've got through turn it back real quick. Sure. So we met with all the consultants, all the design consultants.
Or just send this to me tomorrow, and I'll send it out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Every presentation I'm looking at. Thank you. So what we've done, we've begun a series of meetings with all of the design consultants to look ahead. We've gone through kind of the most critical patch of the project where we're coming out of the ground, anything, the unforeseen conditions and some of the soils conditions. So now we want to prepare ourselves for anything else that might be down the road so that we can react to that, hopefully come up with some economic alternatives to any future issues that arise. On the soft cost portion of the project, reported before that in working with Sue on the soft cost, we've captured about $85,000 in savings. Our focus right now on the big ticket items that we're still trying to determine what those costs are. The commissioning piece is pretty well on its way. We had proposals, and HF Lens was within that budget that we had for the commissioning piece. So we're at the point now where we're getting ready to issue a contract for that. The furniture, the district is currently meeting with vendors. That'll go out to bid eventually in this calendar year so that the furniture pieces can be ordered in time for delivery in 2020. Technology, we continue discussions underway, defining scope, making sure we understand what's in the prime contractors and what will be in the technology. So there's things like cameras, that are being provided under the tech, and we're just coordinating who's installing that. Those type of things are in discussion right now. And then the asbestos monitoring, so we do have some asbestos within the building, and we have some proposals in right now that are in for review to monitor that process and do the testing on all of that. One thing that we try to do on basically a quarterly basis is providing a draw schedule so that the business managers can understand how much each month is projected to go out the door from the construction project. And we adjust that as the reality comes in, that we're predicting what's going to happen as the project moves forward. So it's a good way to plan those type of expenditures.
You mentioned the asbestos, so that's over there in the A building, is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so do you pull it out as you find it, or is it something that's already in there that you can't remove that you just seal back up?
Yeah, it's been tested.
Okay.
Several areas have been tested. They identified what we call hot or positive, and what is not. And then we compare that to the demolition schedule and any existing floors to remain. And then we go from there. So we've got those revised now.
Okay.
And we're about ready to embark on.
Is it normal for a building built in '74 to have asbestos in it?
Yeah. The general rule of asbestos is 1980. And even after 1980, there was still some asbestos that was included in some of the materials. So you can't use that as a definitive rule, but that's a pretty good ballpark. And I think to further answer the question regarding the asbestos, if you're disturbing the asbestos, it has to come out, obviously.
Right.
But there are cases where you can encapsulate in an asbestos product. I think that's where you were getting with the question. So, but we have a bid, obviously, from RL to do that asbestos. Within that bid, there are some unit costs and some allowances to take care of, depending on what we discover. You know, as we continue to uncover things. So.
Basically, RL abatement said, okay, for such and such money, you get so many thousand square feet worth of abatement. And if we find it where we didn't expect to find it, and then not find it somewhere else, we can move our allotment around. It's just a matter of basically trading square footage from one area to the next. And they're in the process of defining that, because certain things, when the bid was put together, were to come out, but don't need to come out, and there's other places that weren't to come out, but do need to come out. So they're sorting through that to most effectively apply the contract allotment.
And as it relates to hard cost, soft cost, the RL abatement contract is in the hard cost, because that's a construction related. The monitoring of the removal of that asbestos is in the soft cost. That's why I mentioned it here. Okay, so considerations, again, we just like to keep you up to speed on what the hot topics are of the day. Some of them haven't changed, of course. One of the ones I just mentioned was the field house getting the power so we can have air conditioning in time. We're watching that closely. Continuing with the existing conditions above ceilings, as we continue our 4 classroom rotation, we'll continue to uncover and deal with those issues. One item that we're going to have that's going to kind of be a recurring theme, as we turn over spaces within the existing building, there will be certain elements that may not be 100% complete because there's coordination that still needs to happen above the ceilings. And instead of completing some of those punch list items now, we hold those off until the summer so that we can go in and get them done, and we're not disturbing the class, and we get it done in a quality manner. It's a tricky, when we have a phased project, it's kind of tricky to determine when exactly to do things and make sure you're not double dipping on doing some of those renovations. Overall schedule, as I mentioned before, the weather, we're always watching the weather, and obviously we're in a stretch right now that's going to be difficult. We're going to lose, some time here and there, but so far we've been working through, this tough patch pretty good. The Panelec issue, obviously the installation of the new power feeds, we had a meeting today, which indicates that they are planning to come out, I believe it was April period, which supports our schedule. So we've furthered our discussions in coming up to support what we're doing. And then all parties are in the process of coordinating the kitchen right now, the kitchen renovation and then how the equipment and the gas and the electric, how that all works. So those are some of the big topics we're looking at currently. As far as student education is concerned, we've had our first session, which we reported on before. We have now scheduled our second session. That'll be in February. We felt that would be a pretty good time to have the students come through, being that the structure will be predominantly up at that point. And we're going to focus our discussion with the students on structural steel, concrete masonry block, those type of things, kind of get them acclimated with building materials and sequences of work. We're also going to focus on the architectural industry, career opportunities there, and if any of the kids have interest in that and what that path might look like, and then of course a building tour. So we're excited to continue that. We'll probably do, I would say we do one more before class lets out in June, so we'll get 3 in before we break for the summer. As far as some photographs, always like Gary to chime in here since he's here every day, but as you can see, this is steel placement that is happening in the new building B. It's been moving along relatively good. More shots of all of that. Here you can see slab on grade being installed in the A addition. And you can see this is where we had intended, we had a certain temperature that was being maintained. And you can see the vapor barrier in the photo on the left here, and then on the right, they're actually pouring the concrete.
What's that barrier called again?
Vapor barrier.
Okay.
This is showing the MEP, the mechanical and electrical work is starting to get roughed in on the underside of the deck. And you can see the structure here, something that was in place is no longer in place.
The wind took care of that Sunday night.
Now, pouring the concrete, is it just regular concrete, or is there an additive added to that for freezing? Or?
There's a little bit of calcium chloride in that. What we did there was when we tinted it, we had heat going for the slab on grade, and then once that slab on grade was poured, we were able to put heat in there that heated the deck and pour the upper. So when we poured the upper, we didn't have to tint because the base of the concrete was going on. It was good, and the plastic lasted long enough to get our 3 days cure.
Yeah, I seen on Sunday it was kind of battered.
Yes, Sunday night was hard on it. That plastic doesn't get grilled too, it's real cold like that.
No.
So.
Well, when they're setting the I-beams, are they, I know they're cold and they're snowed, and we mentioned this down there at the construction meeting down. Are they heated up any when they put them in place for the guys to work with the steel, or they just put in cold?
Yeah.
Put in cold, so they deal with the frost and the, oh, okay.
Yes, and then also I want to point out that yesterday when we had a 27 below chill factor, I had 6 masons up there building scaffold, so these guys are hanging in there. They wanted to work, and so kudos to them.
More of the steel framing around 14th Street with the A.
I have a question. Why is that one taller than one side? When you go across the bridge and you look out at it, that first square is about 6-8 inches higher than the one in front.
From here to here.
Yeah.
I'd have to look to tell you, Bill.
At the paper installation, remember? Yeah. Canopy area, building land addition. See the work that's going on there, and underneath the canopy. And that's going to get a,
See the rest of your just wood.
And the work that's happening at the vault out on the street.
That's the Penrolite wall.
Yeah.
For the A-bone.
And this is some demo in the new set of classrooms that we've taken over, beginning the demo work to get those ready. As well as the driver's ed classroom is also where we're working currently. And then the new mechanical room, so you can see all the equipment, copper, place.
Did we get the big tank out there?
That was good last weekend. I'm sure how many guys were coming out.
And this is on the inside of the addition area as well. that gives you a snapshot of what things are looking like. I know this is probably helpful in that it's not that attractive to go outside now and walk the job, but we can, through photos, give you an idea of how things are progressing. Any questions?
I have one for Gary, and he might have to look at this. Oh, and that one change order for the drainage problem we're having?
The foundation drains?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I was looking at the excavating charge. Is that $70 an hour they charge for on this chart for the excavator?
I'd have to look back on that.
Okay, so according to sheet 2, it's going to take 128 hours. If I divide the excavating charge at $70 an hour for $10,000, it comes out to 149 hours. So I'm wondering why the excavator is getting more hours than the whole job calls for.
Okay. Well,
I mean, we can talk about it later. I just thought before you run out, if you want to.
okay, in regards to that change order, that started out at, I think we were 57, 59,000. And right now we've got it down to 35,000. And we're still working on that. We expect to reduce it even more. Our position is that they own a big part of what they don't feel that they own. So we're in that stage right now and working through that. So we hope to see that 35 come out.
Well, I want to make sure that the excavator isn't overbilling us on what the total job's going to pay.
Yeah, I'll be happy to follow up on that.
Okay.
It sounds to me, Gary, like we need to get a completely new proposal from them anyways.
Which I do.
Yeah, okay.
And I don't know, is the one that,
You can look at this, what I was looking at. And I could be wrong, I'm just going off of the numbers I see here.
we've had 4 different prices on this, so I don't know.
See, this is $128 out here. Oh, I don't even know what I have. I just have alternatives. It's not in any order. It should be in the front. I'm trying to keep them together. This is the paperwork. Next to last. But this one's in 2 months. I figured that $70 an hour, just to be 10,000. Well, that comes out to 149 hours. This is 128 hours.
Okay.
So that's, I'm just wondering why he's going us 149 an hour. Yeah, if that's the case, I don't know.
Okay. I'll be back in a minute.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Gary.
Yeah, I've got a question here. Is there overtime being working down here?
Yes.
And Saturdays, they work?
Some?
Some,
Yes.
Like weather permitting with inside.
Yeah, it depends what we have going and what the weather forecast is coming out. Several of the crews have been working second shift even because we have things that are disruptive when the students are in class. So they've been doing some second shift work and we've had some weekend work also. And that's up to the contractors as to how they divide that up. There's no extra cost to you.
Like I said before, they work safe and.
Yeah, right now everybody's scrambling. We're pushing as hard as we can with weather permitting.
It's nasty this weekend and it's supposed to get rain and freeze,
Yep.
It's winter in central Pennsylvania.
I'm going to fire that up. No.
Pardon me?
I'm just going to fire it up. You just a slide.
So I just wanted to give you a brief overview. We have been with A.J. Gallagher for 3 years now with our property and casualty and a little longer on our workers' comp. And we just wanted to give you an idea of what some other agencies have. In addition, Gallagher is in the kitchen area, similar to what we did with our underwriters, where they came in and talked about the services they can provide. We have Ray Murgis from Saline and Bob from Liberty Mutual, and they're going to go over their services, and then we'll ask Gallagher to come in. We did invite Gingrich as well, and they declined coming to do a presentation. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ray.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So to get it to advance it to the arrow, no? Just to get it to advance to the arrow then?
Yes.
Okay, thanks everybody for having, we'll take just a little bit of your time. Saline Shorts has been around since 1954. It's a third generation family owned business. We're literally 2 minutes away from the school on 1409 11th Avenue. We have an office also at State College. We employ 13 licensed professionals, and we're available 24/7, 365 days a year for any type of service that you would need. Some of the, Barry DeAndre is the owner, and he couldn't be here tonight because he had a operation, so he couldn't talk. Some of the things that we get into are manufacturing, contracting, technology, schools, nonprofit agencies, or nonprofit retail, wholesale, restaurants, hotels, and more. It's a picture of Barry and Jennifer DeAndre. They're the current owners of Saline Insurance. And then also some of the office staff. And we also get involved with the community. We're also sit on some boards, and we also do some charitable events and also do some fundraisers. Some of the carriers that we represent include Liberty Mutual, which Bob's here. We were able to pull him in from Pittsburgh area. We have a good relationship with Liberty Mutual, with schools. And we also represent the carrying carrier that you're with, which is CM Region, which is the Pennsylvania School Board Association, and Utica National. Those are the three players for public schools in the state of Pennsylvania. They control roughly 99% of the market. And Utica was on the schools, they pulled out, and now they're back in again. Liberty, we'll get into it a little bit more. They've been doing it for 45 years on public schools, and they're on over 1,800 schools across all the states. Some of the products that we offer are obviously automobile, property building. You talk about a construction project, get builder's risk going on. Liberty does a really good job with that. General liability, bonds, crime, school leaders, employment practices, liability, just to name a few. But we get into all the coverage that the school actually needs. Then we also work with our carriers on risk management services, looking at building valuations, preventive maintenance, disaster planning, projecting business income, new construction. For liability, we'll do in-depth identification requests, certificates of insurance, insurance company financial status reviews. We'll do claims reviews with the customer. We'll also work with you on your auto. Saline Insurance, so you know, was on Altoona's auto, their school bus fleet back in the 90s. We were actually on that. Now that was prior to my time. I have 15 years in experience with insurance. And also Barry has some. Barry's been in 25 years. We also get involved with workers' compensation and all the things that go along with that. So the one thing that I wanted to stress to the board is while we have access to the three carriers that look at schools, so does your current agent, okay? And I think it would be a good practice for you, not every year, but every so many years, to at least have another agent look at it. One, you're gonna get a competitive bid, you're gonna get an honest bid that's out there. We represent Liberty, they represent Liberty. You're on the PSBA or the CM region right now, but you're gonna get another look at it. It's probably gonna be a more competitive bid when someone else is looking at it versus one agent just looking at all three carriers for you, okay? Well, you want to talk a little bit about Liberty Mutual?
Sure. Ray mentioned that if you run the machine, that'd be great.
Got it.
But Ray mentioned that we have 45 years experience in over 1,800 schools countrywide. In Pennsylvania, we currently have just over 190 schools in Pennsylvania, 95% of which are public schools. We also have a few private schools and a handful of community colleges as well. Of course, in the public school arena, July 1st is the most common effective date for your property and casualty insurance. In the private schools and with community colleges, they may fall on another quarter. And that's why, like on any given date, I have a pretty good idea of exactly how many schools we have. But most of them renew on July 1st. And Liberty Mutual ourselves, we've been in business since 1912. The 45 years experience with public schools largely relates to our companies that we have purchased over the last 15 years, Ohio Casualty, Indiana Insurance, some names that you might be familiar with. Just to give you a little idea, large company, a lot of strength, a lot of experience. Today's not the day to compare coverages, because the day to do that is when proposals have been given and you can compare actual proposals to actual proposals, who's stronger in one area, not in another, et cetera. But what we want to do today is give you some great confidence in knowing that we are prepared and able to compete very well for your business. This gives you an idea similar to what Ray had mentioned with their employees, how many folks we have involved in the business, from loss prevention to engineers, consultants, industrial hygienists, et cetera, getting involved in not only like projects like you just went over, but even the day-to-day activities that you have in your district. This is an example of some of the things that we have available for our customers, including Liberty Safety Net, where folks can get involved and research a particular item online and find out very quickly, like if they're holding a safety meeting or another educational forum, how we can bring folks up to speed in a hurry with today's library of information and give everybody access to this information. Here's some other examples of some things, but the key here is also how we do this whole circle, if you will, of risk management, ranging from in the beginning where you look at things ahead of time, prepare for issues along the way, and then our response, and then of course the recovery, which could be involved in like the financial payment and or the contractors or whatever type of claim we're involved in. A property claim involves construction and repairs. A liability claim involves, payment and other remedial things involved in that type of cycle. Just to give you some ideas here, again, I talked about, this is from a workers' comp perspective, where we have many programs in place to return employees to work faster and try to keep the claims to a minimum. We also work with contractors on site to make sure that things are being other steps to try to prevent any incidents or accidents. This is again a little example of some of the things we talked about, of some of the things that we insure in the public entity area, mostly schools, but cities, towns, we're moving into colleges now, and it gives you some flavor for the type of exposures that we're very comfortable insuring. And finally, this is a lengthy list of all the different coverages and endorsements. Again, today, the three major competitors would put up the same list or something almost identical. But today's not when you compare. When there's two proposals lying side by side, that's where Ray and myself would get involved and say, okay, we can show you that one's stronger than the other in these areas and compare like which ones have the most value to you.
One of the things I want to point out while we have Liberty Mutual here is CM Region. So everything, if we would give you a quote or proposal with Liberty Mutual, everything would be on Liberty Mutual's paper. They've been in the business for 45 years, and they work with schools to develop the programs and coverages for that. On CM Region, I have quoted with them and been exposed to it, also use them, but you're getting different carriers' papers over the years. So you've got maybe one carrier for the property, one carrier for the equipment breakdown, one carrier for the liability. They're piecemealing it together on that. So if you use Liberty Mutual is developing coverages, and a lot of the other carriers are following what their needs are. We're trying to piece everything together. Okay?
Just like in your personal lives, if you had like your coverages all with the same carrier, it leads to less chance of something falling through the gaps. Because instead of one person pointing to the next, to the next, to the next, in our case, it just goes policy to policy to policy. There's less gaps, and wouldn't be any motivation to push it to another carrier. To give you a little flavor again of some of those things that we're involved in, public and private schools, what type of schools involved, and we've been strong in the community and junior colleges as well. But more recently now, we're starting to expand our appetite into colleges and universities with less than 10,000 full-time students. Again, here's some of the things that's new for 2019. We are able to offer a proposal to be separate and distinct for accident and health for the students. And so if they're injured in a sporting activity or a school time event, they can get some basic coverage that can help them, especially if they didn't have health insurance through their family.
This used to be a coverage we'd have to piece out with a separate carrier.
And in this case, some enhancements that we have for 2019 have to do with the pollution coverage. And again, like just give you some idea of some of the things that are involved in that. This is an area that 20, 30 years ago, wasn't quite as prevalent. But as you were discussing earlier with like asbestos and things of that nature, you just never know what we're going to get into. And this is an enhancement that we've been broadening, make it better and better coverage for the schools involved.
I just want to point out that typically mold is excluded on a pollution coverage. They're looking to include that in the upcoming years. With all the rain, well, starting this year, with all the rain that some of the schools, we experienced last year, some of the schools in the area I saw in the local news that they did experience some mold problems and had some shutdowns, but it would be covered moving forward with the mutual. It was typically excluded on insurance policy.
Before you would write your coverage, would you go in ahead of time and do a survey what you're insuring?
Oh, absolutely. So the process starts with a gathering of information that Ray and others have put together. And some of the more basic things are like, okay, how many buildings do we have and what are their approximate value? How many full-time students and how many employees, things of that nature, how many vehicles, basic things like that. But then definitely on a school this size, we would do like an on-site inspection and get involved. It wouldn't necessarily be terribly time-consuming, but it might be something that might take 3-4 hours where somebody would have to give them a tour of the various facilities and so to make sure they'd understand.
Right now, like we're testing all our water sources for lead. Of course, we have the paperwork and you see it's done, you can go by it, but if it wasn't, you would go in and maybe test for contaminants in water ahead of time, check for black mold ahead of time.
In certain cases, yes. Okay. What we're more concerned about is checking to see if you've been doing that. You with me? Like it's more like what programs or checks and balances are in place. Right. And then in some cases we can assist with those because we have industrial hygienists and et cetera, and they can do various tests as well that are included in the cost of our program. In case of school districts as large as yours, we assign a specific client service manager to your account. And the key there is that in the insurance world, there are all types of specific professionals, like risk control, hygienists, claims, even folks that are involved in, I don't want to say data entry, but report generation, things of that nature. And the client service manager can work very closely with your agent broker to make sure that you're getting the full value of the services, and can work just very closely to make sure you get everything that we have available to you. And you see some of these situations with like a service plan where we might come in and give information on the losses, et cetera, similar to the construction manager, and how we even benchmark losses versus other schools of similar size, what you can expect, are you doing better or worse, things like that.
one thing I wanted to explain to the board and to the administration is the way it works with insurance, especially commercial insurance and schools, is Camilla asked us to come and do a presentation, but your renewal date or your effective date is July 1st, I believe. So the agency that puts that submission in with the carrier gets to get that proposal. So gets it in first. And there's a lot of work and a lot of things that go behind the scenes, like getting applications together, getting the building values, getting all the liability and exposures, and getting the supplemental apps together. A lot of work goes into it. So it will take some time, but if you're going to want a local agency to give you a competitive bid, we're going to need to be assigned to Liberty Mutual. We brought you Liberty Mutual in here because I believe they're the better one out there for the schools, and that's what we want to present you tonight.
Not sure if we have anything. There we go. Okay, we're pretty much done, so we'll definitely take any questions that you might have. But again, purpose today is really just so you have some confidence that we're a company combined with Salim that's worthy of the investment of time and effort to can seriously consider a proposal. The details really come later. Any questions, concerns?
Very good, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your time tonight.
Appreciate it.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Josh Daly. With me tonight is Angela Corcoran, and we're with the district's current insurance broker, Arthur J. Gallagher. Whenever I thought about the presentation tonight, I thought that it would be beneficial to hear a little different perspective. Because to be honest with you, it would be easy for me or anybody to get up and talk about how great the organization is and the things that we can do for you. But what I want to focus on tonight are the things that we have done. Because what I think and what you'll see on the subsequent slide is that your insurance program is drastically different from when we first took over back in 2012, 2013. We have a lot of big success stories, and I think it's more important to discuss the successes and the continual evolution of the program and just focus on what we could do for you, okay? So what we're going to do tonight in the essence of time is really discuss Gallagher in a very broad sense instead of focusing on, the nitty-gritty details, who we are, our marketplace cloud, and then move into the specific examples of what we've been able to do for the district. So Arthur J. Gallagher, just so you know, is actually the 4th largest insurance broker in the world. Right now, in the state of Pennsylvania, we have over 120 educational clients, excuse me, that allows us to have unmatched market clout and purchasing power for our clients. And when you think about it, it's the same reason we all shop at Walmart, Amazon, Sam's Club, Target. Why do we shop there? Because we have more purchasing power. Because they're able to drive prices lower due to the volume that they get from their suppliers and pass that along to consumers. Insurance is the exact same way. We have, again, over 120 carriers or clients in the state, and we place more business with every carrier than any other broker in the state of PA. Right now, our offices include Johnstown, Mechanicsburg, Pittsburgh. We have home-based employees right here in Altoona, Erie, Philadelphia, Media, Radnor, and Fort Washington. And what that really allows us to do, and why we've been able to grow so drastically in the last few years, is that we're still able to have that very localized servicing approach. As you can see, I'm an official employee of Altoona School District here, while maintaining our statewide and national resources. And it's come up here in the past. If the district has a unique exposure that maybe you haven't came across before, I'm able to call up in Altoona, or I'm able to call up in Allentown, or a Pittsburgh Public, or a Fox Chapel, and say, hey, Altoona has this issue, could you talk to Camilla, or Dr. Prietel, or Doug? Very valuable, and one of the most valuable things I think of being a Gallagher client is having that market presence in the list that we have of clients. One thing that's not on this chart that you would find of interest is that of our client list, we have a 98% client retention rate in the school sector year to year. So what that tells me is that when individuals and organizations make the switch to Gallagher, they tend to like us and they tend to stay with us year after year. I also provided everybody in your packet of information a client list. And really why I put this in here is for one main reason. A lot of brokers, they specialize in personal lines. Some specialize in placing business for coal mines. What Gallagher does is we focus on education. That's how we've grown, and that's how we've become the largest in the nation and state. You can see on this list, we have a lot of districts that are much, much smaller than Altoona, but a lot of districts that are much, much larger. And what that allows us to do is, again, draw upon that experience that only we can draw from because of our client list. And like I said, there's been countless examples in the past where I've reached out to our clients and put them in contact with senior members of administration here at the district. As far as our servicing team goes, what I want to focus on this slide is not specific names or positions, but what you need to know is that Altoona is obviously a very large school district in the state. All right, this isn't a Shade Central City or even a Claysburg Kimmel. You have a lot of students, a lot of exposures, and with larger districts comes larger problems. So what we have is a client service team that is here to support you and support a district of this size, because of the volume of requests that we get on a daily basis. So not only do we have account management, Ange and her team, to support day in and day out operations, but we also have in-house claims, risk management, safety, and our own internal counsel, which I'll get into specifically why that's important for you and what we've been able to accomplish with the district. But again, the whole point of this particular slide is that we have the team and the resources behind us, and we don't have to subcontract that out to a carrier or a third party to provide those services to you. So why are we different? Well, Gallagher looks at insurance a little bit differently than most of our competitors. When I go out to clients and prospects, most of the time I hear, well, my broker's local, he comes out, he provides pricing, and maybe a few certs throughout the year. But when you think about it, a lot of times, whenever you focus solely on pricing and not looking at the other aspects of your program, that's where issues can arise. Anybody can place your coverage with a cut rate carrier and save you $1 today. But if you have a claim that's not accepted, there's a gap in coverage, or, oh, by the way, you're not looking at contracts, reviewing them, making sure the language is appropriate, like Sue and I do on a frequent basis, that 1 year of savings now can put you behind the ball to the point where you can never recover financially. Because one thing's apparent, as we've seen here and across the state, lawsuits and litigation are not going away. We've seen a dramatic increase in the number of lawsuits against director and officers or school leaders throughout the state, and it's one thing that certainly isn't going away anytime soon.
I think one thing that I'll just add there that we found in our school district clients that's a great benefit is looking at uninsured and underinsured losses and coverage gaps. We can take away from our experiences with other school districts that we insure. We can see claim scenarios that they bring to us and maybe where they didn't have coverage, the proper coverage in place, and we can go back to our insurance carriers and negotiate to make sure that those gaps are filled, and then we share those coverages with all of our other clientele. We've been able to broaden the school program on all of our insureds and really across the state because of our experiences and our leverage with the insurance carriers because of the business that we do with them.
And I'll get into specific examples later, but there's been times in the last 5 years where we've actually identified that, hey, you know what, almost every schools have drones now, all right? And when you look at the policy, well, guess what, drones are excluded because they're considered an unmanned aircraft. So if there would be liability, hits something, hits a person, or God forbid you would be filming an individual, they didn't consent, then you have a whole liability there on its own. There are some holes in cyber policies that we've actually petitioned carriers to adopt their language to adjust to these risks because we understand what you're facing on a daily basis. For our 6 cost drivers, again, we're looking at more than just insurance premiums, and by no means am I saying that insurance premiums aren't important. To be honest with you, they're number one, they're paramount, because in the funding crisis that we live in today, every dollar matters. But what's more important is a robust program to make sure that your risks are covered and you're protecting from exposures that every district deals with, and exposures that may be unique to Altoona and not prevalent everywhere else. But what this shows you is all of our tools and resources that we have to deploy and the things that we use here at Altoona to combat each one of those cost drivers. Core 360 to Altoona really means a couple things in my mind. It's really continual feedback and accountability on our end. I don't know too many, if any of our competitors, that semi-annually come out and meet with senior administration and provide them what you see in front of you. This is our actual client summary or executive summary that we provided to Kimmel and her team back in December. And essentially what it does is it shows year-to-date the services that we've provided and the highlights of the program. So that not only is everybody on the same page, but you're holding us accountable, and we continually justify doing business with the district. Because let's be honest, every contractor that you deal with, regardless if it's food service, transportation, maintenance, it's all about accountability. And we should be held accountable. That's the way the relationship should work, and that's one of the ways that we report back and justify doing business with the district continually moving forward. Claims advocacy and loss control, you can review them, and again, in the essence of time. What I'd like to focus on are how we've deployed specific examples of our in-house staff to help the district. So, as I alluded to before, our relationship here, and I'm not just saying it because I'm in front of the group, I would put our relationship with this administration team up against any other district in the state of PA. I'm on the phone with Billy, Doug, Camilla, Sue, Susan, Tamara. It seems like every day about something. And again, that's the way it should be. They all have my personal cell, email, and it's continual feedback because as we've seen here recently, things change, risks evolve, and exposures come up on a daily basis. One of the ways over the years that I've gotten to know the district and the risks and the buildings is through the safety committee. And I always have a saying when I'm in front of groups is that if you've seen one school district, you've seen one school district. For those of you who have, grew up elsewhere or have gotten involved in other districts, every district is unique. Student population, board makeup, demographics, every district poses unique risks. It may seem like a cookie cutter, it's a school, they're all the same. That's not the case at all. So one of the ways that I become ingrained kind of in the local culture, and again, how I got the badge for the safety committee, is attendance at monthly safety committee. So since 2013, myself or one of our members has attended 46 safety committees for the district. And for those of you who don't know, school districts in the state of PA are required to have a certified committee. And the way it works is that if you meet monthly, you complete the application, you take meeting minutes, you document, you complete safety inspections, accident investigations, you can apply through an application for the state and receive roughly a 5% discount in your workers' comp premium, which for a district this size is roughly $15,000. What's more than that, though, is that if you're found out of compliance, the state can actually withhold funding from you equal to that 5% discount. So for a district like this, that's actually a $30,000 swing year to year if you would be found out of compliance. Well, one of the things that I did back a few years ago when Margaret moved on, she was the chairman of the safety committee. So during that time of transition, I went to Camilla and I said, look, this could be an issue. We need to keep having these meetings. This was before Doug serves as the chairman now, before he took his current role. And I served as the unofficial, official chair for that transition time to make sure that those meetings were being held, and not only that, but more importantly, you could receive that discount because we understand, again, how critical each and every dollar is. What's more is we have certified trainers on staff, myself being one of them. So yes, that tells you how hard it is to get that training certification through the state. But we have certified trainers on staff that actually certify each and every member of the committee every year, okay? And it's a state requirement. Everybody has to go through this training. Most districts who aren't Gallagher clients are either relying on third parties, the state's website, or carriers. And the problem with that is they may have one person to come out and you're adjusting to their schedule, where because of our in-house resources, we can accommodate your meetings whenever you're meeting. So that's another thing that we do. And also I assist both Tamara and Danielle with the CTC with these applications each and every year. I either physically come out and complete them with them or provide any type of data that's required through the state's website that they need. In the theme of constant communication and continual feedback, one of the things that I do for senior administration is provide the team a detailed workers' compensation loss run analysis each and every month. And this is something really you can't get anywhere else because it comes from my computer, my head. Essentially what I do is I download Excel data and I manipulate it to show trending each and every month. So there's no guessing a year in, 6 months in, month to month how the losses are trending. Why is that important? Well, administration needs to know where claim costs are at, one. But two, we as a safety committee use that report and identify any trends and try to curtail them as they come up. So if we see, for instance, a few years ago, we noticed that there was an extreme amount of lag time from the time that employees got hurt to the time they reported the claim to the carrier. All right, so what we did was we put out mass emails and basically made an emphasis effort to get lag time down. And why that's important is the longer it takes for that claim to be reported, the more costly it is statistically for the district. So that's just one example of where if that report wasn't being utilized, things could have snowballed out of control and who knows what could have happened. The CTC also receives these reports, but on a quarterly basis. The reason for that is where the district may have anywhere from 100 to 150 claims a year, they may have 5 or 10. So their trending is much, much lower, frequency is much, much lower, but it's still important to stay on top of what does come up. We also hold 2 to 3 workers' compensation claim reviews a year. And again, this is really one of the things that Gallagher offers that not a lot of other brokers do, is our in-house claims advocates. The claim advocate that works on this district was actually the senior claims advocate for Liberty Mutual in her past life. So what we do 2 to 3 times a year is we sit down with the district, Gallagher, and the carrier, and we review the plan of action, all right? And why that's important is adjusters may have anywhere from 80 to 120 claims in their docket at one time. So things fall through the cracks naturally. And what our claims advocates do is they review and make sure that they approve of the plan, and we question any type of reserves that may be hanging out there. Just a few months ago when we met, the carrier left $20,000 in reserve for an employee who was back to work. We were able to get that closed out. Again, why is that important? All those figures go into your experience mod calculation, which ties directly into how much you pay for insurance.
What is the district's experience mod?
Your experience mod right now, your experience mod right now is a 1.124. 1.124, which is a 6% decrease since 2017. Correct.
Wow. So they're paying in excess of the full premium.
Correct. Yeah. It's a debit mod, and that's why, again, it's important to, and it was much higher in the past, but again, that's why the continual evolution of the program is important, because things, again, can still go out of control and that mod can continue to increase. One of the things that everybody in this room should really think about when you think about Gallagher or discuss Gallagher, that I would almost say that none of our competitors have, is that for all high-profile claims that involve school leaders, so that's any type of accusations made against teaching staff, administrators, IEP-related claims, again, things that we see a high frequency of in today's world. We actually have our own internal claims counsel that review the plans of action for these claims before they're ever submitted to the carrier. Why that's important is a few different reasons. It determines which line of coverage we think we can get the claim accepted under. So whether it's a GL policy or your school leader's policy, that's extremely important. Deductibles apply. You may have a deductible under your school leaders, but not GL. And also, which legal counsel team is going to give you the best chance to prevail. Because even if the accusations are warrantless, you still have a duty to defend yourself and protect the district's assets. So that's something that Gallagher has to offer that I think really has come into play in the past few years, not only here at the district, but also across the state as well. Again, talking about an account that has a lot of service, a lot of servicing volume. Since 2017, this number has actually gone up because this figure was as of a few weeks ago. We've issued over 99 certificates of insurance for just the district alone. That number goes well up over 100 for the CTC. And what that shows is that there's a high volume, and we have the team behind us to not only service the account correctly the first time, but also expeditedly and in a prompt fashion whenever administration needs those things. One of the crowning achievements, I think, for myself that I've helped to implement here, I come from a background, I was in the private sector before joining Gallagher roughly 8 years ago. So I was the safety and workers' compensation manager for a manufacturer in the state. And one of the things that I really see as a gap in most districts throughout the state of PA is the fact that, and Mr. Beard can speak to this as well as anybody, most districts who enter into agreements with contractors are blindly accepting what their contracts state. And most of the time when we review language, you as a district are accepting the negligence of the contractor, when in reality it should be reversed. They should be responsible for what they're negligent for. But most of the time, if they're not being reviewed, the district is picking up that exposure. So working with Sue and Doug, one of the things that we've implemented is an all-inclusive program where we review all contracts. We look at any type of hold harmless and indemnification language for that particular contract, as well as applicable limits to make sure that you're best protected. We also provide sample waivers for special events, everything that goes on here at the district. And again, we were able to draw upon our client experience as well across the state. Things like festivals and carnivals, space balloons flying over the school, transporting the telescope, CDL course at the CTC, dental hygienist course at the CTC, to name a few recent ones. We review all of these things not only for safety concerns, insurance implications, but also contractual requirements as well, and we provide waivers in addition to all that. We do the same thing for all the RFPs that the district and CTC undergoes. Obviously, the transportation RFP is going to be vastly different than the maintenance or custodial RFP, and we review the proper language and limits for those things as well. As far as our community involvement, I know one of the things that I frequently hear is that if we're not on Main Street, we're not involved in the community. Well, with Gallagher, one of the emphasis that we have is to always give back to our clients. So we partner with the district first through our Coach for Kids program. And basically what that is 20 years ago or so, we started a program where we seek out, and every year reach out to Camilla or Susan, 4 to 6 needy families in the district that identify students who wouldn't be able to afford a winter jacket. Because one thing, it doesn't matter how affluent a district is, there's needy families everywhere. So we get the sizes, we get the colors, we get the styles, and we supply those jackets to those students every year because it's a luxury that most of us take for granted that unfortunately too many kids go without. And we do that because the last thing that we would want, one, is the kid to be cold walking to and from school, but to be bullied or harassed because a style or a color that they don't like. So it's one of the ways that we support the district. We're also a grant foundation partner, which everybody knows about in this room, where we donate funds back so that programs can happen that ordinarily wouldn't be able to take place if it wasn't for those funds being appropriated. I talked about our ability to affect change earlier. Again, there's no other broker in the state that can actually say that they've recently affected all policy language, whether it's for Altoona or any other district in the state, because we petition carriers, again, for social engineering coverage under your cyber policy, as well as drones, and petitioning for increased violent events. Again, it's unfortunate we're in the year 2019 and we have to worry about school shootings, but it happens. We have, unfortunately, experience with school tragedies. Franklin Regional is actually one of our schools, and those of you who remember what happened there years ago, we responded to that. And one of the things that we've heard over time is that we would like to purchase more coverage for that particular event. Well, years ago, you'd be lucky to get $50,000 or $100,000. Now we're able to get those limits well over $1 million for those of you who would like to purchase it. Also, the exclusive programs that we offer that nobody else does, or no other broker in the state does. Beginning in 2019, free access to Safe Schools. And that is a platform that is an online safety training tool and human resources related tool that most districts in the state utilize. For a district this size, that's a $4,000 to $6,000 savings that you would receive free because of being a Gallagher client. Our one-to-one technology coverage, our boiler and machinery advantage, as well as our environmental programs are all things that you have access to that if you would place coverage elsewhere, you wouldn't. And the reason we're able to do those things with higher limits and better rates is because of the volumes that we place. So really, I leave you with, and I apologize for going over the 15-minute mark, but it's hard to fit in our accomplishments in just a few slides. And what I want to leave you with is what I referred to earlier. When you think about the high-profile claims that the district has experienced in the last 3 to 5 years, and you think about how your policy has responded, not only are the individuals in this room protected or have been protected, but also the district's assets have been protected. So what that says to me is that your program is working, it's responded accordingly, and it's through our knowledge and experience operating as the largest broker that we're able to place that coverage for you. So we really do appreciate your time. We enjoy working with everybody here, and we look forward to evolving your program and taking it to the next step moving forward as well. Are there any questions with anything that I discussed today for Angela or myself at all? Yeah.
Perhaps the school here or next door to VOTEC, they wanted to have training on drones.
Yep.
So what's the procedure there? If I call drone and say, we want to get a drone program for search and rescue, EMS, so how would you go about?
So basically, the way that works is every year we get a list of drones or the serial numbers of drones from Kimmel or the technology department, and we would just add that to the list. So in that scenario, we would just, myself or Angie would reach out, get those serial numbers, make sure they're on the policy, and you would have coverage.
Now, would there be like a restriction for height, distance?
Typically not. It all depends.
There's usually a size restriction.
Yeah, that's what I was
on
gonna
the
say.
drone itself. I'd have to look at the policy language to know that in detail, but yeah, usually over a certain size, you would maybe have to go and look for a standalone policy to cover that. There's certain restrictions within the actual package policy for that, but I think typically, we haven't run into any of our districts having one over the size limit.
And most of
We
the time.
talked about that over next door.
Okay, yeah.
Talked about it, so I sort of reckon you go through the insurance and then plus the solicitor type of thing and, find out the restrictions.
Yeah, and most of the time, there's a local ordinance that would supersede anything. So, how close are you to an airport, types of drone, the size. And then a lot of times, they'll want to see if there's a certified instructor. So that would be the instructor of the class. That would be.
Because there is on occasion a helicopter to fly to.
Well, and that was one of the concerns with the space balloon. It sounds funny, it sounds humorous, but you're flying this thing, there's airports around, there's helicopters going over, you just never know what can happen.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'll pass some information on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we can get you more details on those size limits if you need it.
How many school districts are you to account for? You have a lot of school
Yep.
districts. How many do you actually?
I myself service 14.
And I have 13, they're not all the same. There's some different producers on my accounts, but I service 13 of those
Correct.
that I work on firsthand. I actually technically oversee a bit all of them. I'm kind of the head of the school team, so I do a lot of the talks with the carriers, pre-planning for the school period again, and negotiating some of these coverage enhancements with the carriers prior to each renewal period for the school districts, but I personally work on 13.
And again, I live out of my car. My wife teaches at Forest Hills, but my office is my car. And I was hired for Gallagher for our higher profile districts. So me personally, I started off working with Allentown City, Pittsburgh Public, Cumberland Valley, obviously Altoona, Fox Chapel, a lot of the higher profile districts in the state I grew up working with. So I think it gave me a unique perspective to understand what larger districts are, over the course of 8 years than just what I would have if I'd been working with a small, like I alluded to before, Shade or North Star or one of those size districts. Any other questions for me at all, or Angela? All right, well, I do apologize for going over. I really appreciate your time, and thank you again.
Thank you. Appreciate it.